Indiana Jones. It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute, the podcast in which we celebrate and discuss the film Raiders of the Lost Ark 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Mummert.
And we should not have joked about Christy being Forrestal because she was just impaled on a wall of spikes and we feel terrible.
She was good.
She was very good. And so we won't be hearing from her today. Jer's still out of the country. We haven't heard from him in ages. But all is not lost. We are joined again by John and Mitch from the Alien Minute podcast. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us back.
Thanks for coming back to close out the week with us with Minute 60. Minute 60 begins with Indy clearing the sand off a stone slab, and it ends with Indy and Sallah peering into the opened well of souls. We didn't think this could happen, but they finally made it. This is getting serious.
This is the scene that makes me think Salah's living up to his moniker of best digger.
Yeah.
They really seem to be precision digging because they're digging and digging and digging, and they all seem to get to about a quarter of an inch above the stone at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to point, not to undermine that, but I do want to point out that the scene did begin in the harsh light of day. And it took them all the way until sometime in the middle of the night to get through that thin layer of sand that we were talking about not that long ago. So I'm not so sure. I don't know. I think you might be milking the clock a little bit, actually.
Yeah. Less singing, more digging. You guys. There's one part in this minute that I'm not crazy about. And we were talking earlier about Sallah. You know, his superpower is that he can fall into a kind of, kind of subservient, pleasing role to kind of, keep the bad guys from even noticing him or something. And he kind of does that with Indy in this scene, and I don't like it at all. He goes, when he's so eager about, finding the lid, I guess, to the Well of Souls. And he's like, you see, Indy? You see? And it's like, no, settle down, Sallah. That's, Come on, you're cooler than that. Come on.
That's always been a cringy line to me, too. I was thinking, I actually didn't, for some reason, I thought, I'm not going to put that in my notes. I'm not sure if that's even something. I'm glad you did, though, because I have always felt the same way. I've never liked that line. It sounds like bad ADR, too. It sounds like something that's recorded later. It doesn't fit the sound design at all to me. And it does. It makes him sound like a jerk. He sounds like pathetic. And
I'm not sure it gets much better in the next minute either. I think this is these 2 minutes are not Salah's finest 2 minutes.
No.
Well, he starts off so strong when you first meet him. He's just such a cool, solid, awesome guy. And he stays that way for most of the movie. But yeah, then in a couple of scenes in here, he's kind of...
Well, this might be the first hint at whatever mental issues he has between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade, because by then he's pretty much just this character.
That's true.
I'm a little worried about
true.
him. I think somebody should have noticed the early warning signs, whatever's going on here.
Well, maybe that fall down the hill a couple minutes ago did it.
It might.
He did that too many times.
He hit his head against the tire of the car.
Oh, it's depressing. I don't want to think about it.
So I got a question here. So I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but they're opening this the Well of the Souls here, and it's a giant slab of concrete, right? Rectangular in shape. Is this part of the Carbonite dream, where Han is finally dreaming of he's being freed from this slab that he's trapped inside? Is this can I please put forth my one Easter egg of my own?
Absolutely.
It's got on the list, number 37.
It does belch up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is.
Well, it sounds like the hiss of the carbonite.
Yeah, the carbonite
right.
freezing chamber.
That would be my guess, yes.
Oh, wow, the freezing chamber.
Doesn't make a lot of sense that there would be visibly gaseous stuff coming out of this empty space. Unless the snakes are venting or something, I don't know.
Well, it is sort of a prefiguring sound. Like it is a very hissing sound coming out of there.
Yeah. I noticed this time that before they even fully get the pry bars under the lip of that slab, you can kind of see it jostled a little bit, so it actually looks like it's extremely light for a second. Like it's probably just a big piece of wood or something.
Yeah.
And I try not to notice that.
Well, I've never thought about that, because one of the things I was going to note is there's a little tight shot of the pry bar going under the stone. And I've always been totally sold by the weight of this stone, because Sallah's foot right next to that slab bothers me so much.
His
toes, his bare toes, every time I've ever watched that. And what's funny is that Han, I just
there you go.
Han.
Go with it.
Indy seems to know that we feel this way. I kind of wonder if when they're editing the movie, if somebody didn't go, somebody should tell him to watch his toes, because they just throw in, I'm pretty sure it's off screen, Indy saying, watch your toes. And I'm like, that's perfect.
Watch those toes.
Everyone should be watching their toes. Well, that's another case where there might have been a little ADR thrown in after the fact to appease the audience. Or maybe it was just like me, it makes me cringe. Maybe Spielberg or somebody was like, felt the exact same way. I don't know.
There was a test screening and some blue hair old lady said, I'm worried about his toes. He should be wearing better shoes. I don't like this movie.
It's kind of amazing when we've got almost 60 seconds of nothing but digging in this minute. And kudos to Spielberg, because one of the things that guy is so amazing with is process. He always, even scanning with the surveyor's instrument, he always is able to make these really interesting processes. And he just pretty much committed to digging for a minute, and
right.
There you go.
So I was going to ask you guys, okay, so, a movie like this that you watch a lot of times when you're a kid, we talked a little bit, I can't remember if it was off mic or not. We talked a little bit about the work song and how it was, something that we all sang when we were kids and so on.
Sure.
Did anybody else say, Ipsy? Like sometimes, just even to yourself when you're playing or anything. I always, for some reason, that stuck in my head, and it was sort of, I thought that it was sort of like andale, or something like get it up, let's go. And then I just today looked it up, and I don't know if you guys did. Did anybody else look it up?
No, I was hoping somebody like you would show up and happen to know what it was. And
it means, apparently, the only definition I could find, and listener out there who knows better, tell me if I'm wrong. It means go away. That's the only definition I could find. He's saying go away. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad translation. Maybe it's part of like getting it up out of there, or get it out of there or something. But I never knew until today what it was supposed to mean. But when I was a kid, it was one of those, when you're playing Indiana Jones, just those little lines, that stick in your head and you play and you repeat them. Yeah.
I think I either did that, or I know I did, like anytime you're doing something with other, like you're lifting something, like you're carefully. That always gets in there.
Oh, and he says, I never noticed till today too. He says like a team, right?
Oh yeah.
Isn't that what he says? He goes like a team. And I've always assumed he was saying something in a different language. Mitch, did you ever notice that's what he says?
No.
That's what he says. Very strange little line, but
I may have thought the same thing. I may have assumed that was something in, another language. That's funny. It's funny because Jer is usually doing the opposite. He usually hears English no matter what language is being spoken. Right. And it's a condition or something. It's too bad he had to be killed in South America. That's so sad. But we were talking before, I guess last minute, about the look on Indy's face in this moment, as like that crazy God fury storm is going on behind him. And in this minute, he gets really, he's probably the craziest he's looked in the whole movie. He's got this like, ha, look on his face, like, oh my gosh, the Well of the Soul is about to open. And I mean, we've seen him like throughout the movie. There've been different, like, when he finally comes face to face with the idol at the beginning, or when he, when the staff of Ra shows him where the Well of Souls is. He gets these moments of oh my gosh, this is why this guy is into this. This is why he does this. Is for moments like this. But this one, he just seems almost. Maybe I'm being critical. I guess I want to say he's being a little too nuts in this scene. Maybe. Does anybody else feel that way, or am I alone?
Yeah.
Well, it's as nuts as he's going to get, right?
Yeah, I
mean,
guess so.
From the actor's point of view, it's like, this is it. 'Cause
Yeah.
all I got to do is be scared of snakes and beat people up and close my eyes. So this is it.
Yeah, I think
true.
this is
Everything you got, Harrison.
this is the pinnacle, like I was talking about a few minutes ago when he's surveying the dig site. I think this is like the pinnacle of his glee,
Yeah.
of his joy of discovery. I think he's about to make the biggest discovery possible. He's about to like we talked about. This is the biggest moment of his life about to happen, presumably.
Well, he says to Marcus back at his house, that thing represents everything we got into archaeology for in the first place.
Exactly. So I think it's it makes sense. He's adrenalized. He's a little excited about this. And he could be a little bit electrically charged from the storm too. I don't know.
It's
There's a little
possible.
like lightning madness or something that have overcome him. But yeah, I really think seriously. I think that is what we're talking about here. Is he's just adrenalized by this next moment that he's about. He doesn't realize there's going to be the obstacles in the way. I think that's unfortunately in the next minute, and we can't talk about it. But I think that's part of the fun of what's actually in the first thing they see in the Well of Souls.
Yeah.
Fair enough to say he's not thinking about Marion right now, is he?
He's not thinking about Marion at all.
He forgot she's tied up.
I mean, to be honest, when you watch this movie, are you at this point in the movie?
Fair
I'm just
enough.
saying that I think they do a good job of putting us in his shoes, and we're on the ride with him.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I don't think we're thinking. I mean, Mitch apparently is. Like, he's the one that brought it up. But
What can you blame him? Marion's
No,
awesome.
I was confessing my own
right.
failings in this situation because I haven't thought of her either during this whole thing.
It is the Well of Souls.
That's true.
Hey, I have the same. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I also think these reaction shots look straight out of the 1940s or 50s, and I think you guys nailed it. I don't know if it was last minute or a minute before, where you called this almost a quote of the Ten Commandments. I mean, this looks exactly like Cecil B. DeMille. This scene looks so much like the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
That's true. With that just wrath of God in the background, and a little bit of 30s overacting.
And I do love the fact that they still won't give us you get Indy's point of view of the stone being removed, and then we want to see what's beyond it, right? And then we get that shot looking out of the Well of Souls as both Indy and Sallah peer in, just prolonging the suspense as what's in there, what's in there.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That shot always makes me think of Close Encounters. It looks kind of like the same crazy sky.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Oh, good
that's
point.
true.
Yeah.
Spielberg loves crazy skies.
What are they're behind them on this crazy sky moment? There are like some metal slabs propped up behind them. I've always wondered what those are.
I don't know.
Behind them outside, you mean? In the
Yeah, kind of propped up against the rocks.
Oh, weird.
A bunch of metal slabs or wooden doors or something.
I don't
Maybe
think
that's
I've
just
ever
their-
noticed it.
I totally missed those. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to go back and look now.
It's digging gear. You wouldn't understand. It's very technical. I have the same question about the Well of Souls as I had about the map room. Is there a door to the Well of Souls that you would use, assuming your city hadn't been buried in sand?
Yes, I would imagine so.
Okay, because I don't think we see anything like that.
No.
And okay, that leads me to another question. Why is there a hole on the top of the Well of Souls that you can open? Why does this entranceway exist? And why did Indy assume that there would be an entranceway like this?
Well, I don't know whether this has anything to do with anything, but the tombs in Greece, that's how they would do them. They would have one opening at the very top, and then everything else would be ultimately sealed down below, and they have dug those up. I mean, there's a big one by Mycenae that you walk into in what was once the sealed doorway, and then the only other thing is way straight up. There's a circle, and it was discovered because a shepherd lost a goat down the hole. Yeah, and that's how he found that. That's how they found that hole, and then ultimately excavated it. So maybe it's a tomb thing. I don't know.
Okay, so that might just be an accurate thing and not just a. Well, the city's buried, and we got to get in there somehow. Otherwise, Indy's not going to get the Ark. That makes sense.
I always bought it anyway. I've never given it a second thought until you brought it up. It's one of those things about this movie that I believe it. I pretty much believe everything that's happening for the most part that I'm seeing. It's just they just did a great job of taking us along for a ride in this movie. So
definitely.
Yeah.
They focus us towards what one of the why is it the top that way? Well, because we want it to be that way, and we want to get inside. It's how is it? How can the bride in Kill Bill get out of that grave buried alive? Well, because we want her to get out of it. Ultimately.
Right.
And they are so. This movie is so beautifully focused in directing what we, the audience, want. It's really terrific.
Yeah. Like they always say how it's it's the serials from the 30s and but then you watch those, you're like, well, no, Raiders of the Lost Ark is not that, but it's got that same sort of just propulsive. It's constantly moving, and it's constantly just kind of rollicking forward, and so you don't have time to ask questions like, why is there a sunroof to the Well of Souls?
A sunroof.
A raw roof, I'm sorry. That's all I had for this minute. It is a lot of digging in this minute, a lot of sand clearing. And
to bring it full circle, if you're going to have a minute in your movie that's 60 seconds of digging, it probably should be the finest digger's finest moment. And it's not. I almost feel it's, now that we look at it this way, I'm almost even more insulted by Sallah's behavior, and that this should be his minute. Of all the minutes in the movie, this should be the one that he owns, and yet has this horrible subservient line. Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. I feel like Sallah bounces back though, doesn't he? In this movie, this is he hasn't sunk to this low and then stays there, right? I think he kind of comes back.
Yeah, well, all I know is I'm going to be tuning in when you guys get to the way down the way, and we get to Sallah's last moment. I'm really curious to hear how you position that in terms of neocolonialism and all this stuff.
We'll see what we can come up with. But way before we get to that, you guys should tell us what's. We're all fans of the Star Wars Minute. And those guys were crazy enough to watch Star Wars and all of its sequels 1 minute at a time. And it turns out Pete and Jerry and I are crazy enough to do the same thing with Raiders. What got you guys to want to do this with Alien?
Well, it's definitely on me. I've been a big Star Wars Minute fan for a while. I picked up on it somewhere in the middle of Empire and went back and listened to everything. I even connected with Alex real early on because I had a real beef with something they were saying about Star Wars. I connected right away and listened to it for a while, and it was in the back of my mind, hey, what a good idea. But I never thought about doing it myself. And then I listened to Goodfellas Minute. So I guess those guys know those guys. And then it's, came about that they were talking about, hey, if you want to use this format, just hit us up and just follow these couple of rules. And this will be kind of a funny thing to you. I wanted to do Raiders of the Lost Ark. Right? That was my first thought. And even I was talking to my roommate about it, who has listened to some of these podcasts too. And I remembered Pete and Alex saying something about having just recorded another show. And something told me that it was your show. And I said, it's Lucasfilm. It's got to be. Somebody has to be already on top of that. And so I immediately went to Alien after that, and because I thought, man, another movie that's so ripe for dissection is that. And the guy I've talked to about Alien the most is Mitch, and Mitch has even taught me a lot about Alien. He showed it in one of his classes. I guess your listeners don't know that he was a former professor of mine, and we're just friends. After I graduated from college and so on.
Awesome.
And I hit him up, and I was really kind of surprised. He immediately said, sure, let's do it. So I'm like, immediately. And so it just hit the ground running from there. But Alien is such a, I mean, as far as like somewhat scholastically breaking down a movie, it's one of the funnest ones I could think of, and I really think we're getting somewhere on it. I'm learning so much about like the craft of filmmaking, screenwriting, and everything just by doing this. It's been a fun experience so far.
And it does feel with that movie a little bit like, because Ridley Scott made all those commercials, he kind of seems to be somebody who really does think very clearly in 30 and 60-second increments. And that movie really lends itself to this minute by minute thing beautifully, as does Raiders too. I mean, Raiders has it clips right along, and it's
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just kind of stunned with Alien how often it seems to be falling really strongly into 30 and 60-second intervals. So
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, it's been fun.
It is fun. It's a deep nerd dive, and it's kind of awesome. It's a good exercise. Everybody, start your own podcast. Start your own Movie Minute podcast. Well, Pete and I'm sure Jerry apologize for scooping you with Raiders.
Oh no, no, I'm happy that it felt that way. I'm really happy to be doing Alien. But boy, yeah, it's funny how I knew what you guys were up to without having any way of knowing, and somehow something told me you guys were up to this. So, congratulations on doing great.
Thank you.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm having a blast listening to it, and it's so much fun being on the show. Thank you so much for letting us come in and look at, frankly, my favorite 10 minutes of the movie, or 5 minutes of the movie. So.
Oh, fantastic!
Cool.
Yeah, we're glad you could be here. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
And there are more of these movies, you know. Would you guys ever want to come back for Temple of Doom?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely would.
Awesome. Isn't there a scene where he ditches Willie Scott and ties her up and leaves her to the bad guy? There must be, right? We'll put you down for that one.
We can talk about that one.
All right. Well, until then, where can people find the Alien Minute?
The Alien Minute is at alienminute.com, or follow us on Twitter at AlienMinutePod. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes and the Stitcher app.
And Pete, where can people find us?
Come join our listeners group, Indiana Jones Minute and the Listener Crusade on Facebook, and join the conversation about the episodes.
Please do. Oh, and you know what? Review us on iTunes. We love that. We love hearing. We love getting stars, and we love hearing your opinions, shouting it out to the world, to people who maybe haven't found us yet. That helps us out a lot. But thank you, Mitch and John. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks
Thanks
you all
again.
for listening. And we will be back next week with more of Raiders of the Lost Ark here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Watch your Jones.
Joe!
You see, Indy? You see, Jones?